We got some amazing news about Cole Caufield's upcoming contract extension, showing that it might be cheaper than we expected, so we'll be getting into that. Plus, the Habs officially signed Michael Pezzetta to a 2-year extension. Finally, we'll be talking about Owen Beck and the Peterborough Pete's incredible comeback in the Memorial Cup, and they booked a one-way ticket to Jared Davidson and the Seattle Thunderbirds in the semifinals, so you don't want to miss this edition of Habs Digest. Hello, bonjour, ahoy, and welcome to today's news edition of Habs Digest. I'm your host, Josh Gosse, alongside my co-host, Jesse Poirier. And a quick reminder, as always, I'm going to quickly do this. 70% of you guys watching are not subscribed. Now, to be fair, you guys have been hitting subscribe like crazy recently, but if you hear this every video and you haven't hit it yet, just hit the button. It helps us out. It helps you out find better news. I'm just excited to get into this video today, Jesse. I'm not going to spend too much time on the intro, but Tony Marinaro, I'm sure a lot of you guys watch Tony Marinaro on YouTube doing his live streams, has lots of great insider news about the Habs, and here's what he tweeted. He said, "Yesterday I reported that I'm hearing Cole Caufield's new contract with the Habs will not be more than Nick Suzuki's cap hit of $7.875 million. Today, I was just informed that talks are progressing and all signs point toward a 7 or 8 year deal." Jesse, I just started grinning ear to ear when I heard this news because we were anticipating maybe a bridge deal, like, oh, well, he want over $8 million. Some people saying $9 million. But if we can get Cole Caufield on a 7 to 8 year deal at under $8 million, I mean, I just feel like that sets the Habs up so well for the future. I'm excited.
This proposal would be the ideal situation for the Montreal Canadiens in so many ways. It's just so good for like your overall team structure when you can really set that benchmark. Let's say in our example, Nick Suzuki, our captain, making the most on your team and kind of structuring it so on and so forth incrementally from there. Now locking up these two young players that play so well together on similar type of contracts where we're having them around for the same span of time is just an amazing sign for this franchise. Just imagine what they could do and how they could be performing together at the end of this 7 or 8 year contract together.
Oh man, it's just like we have these guys until like right until they're 30. I mean, NHL players' primes are usually around 25, 26 years old. This is just, again, it's not official yet, and we'll be more excited when it becomes official. But again, if all signs are pointing towards it, it's pretty amazing. I mean, look at comparable teams like Nathan MacKinnon and the Colorado Avalanche. They won a Stanley Cup on McKinnon's bargain deal that he signed when he was younger, and you can only hope that Cole Caufield will kind of do the same. And I mean, you look at a Leafs situation where Matthews, Marner, and Tavares are all making, well, Matthews is going to make a ton more now, but like 10 million plus, right? And it really capstraps the team. But if you have your two best players, it'll probably be the two best players going forward as Montreal moves into contention, each under $8 million a year for their primes. Jesse, especially with the performance of the NHL recently in the TV ratings, they're getting crazy viewership. Of course, TNT with the Stanley Cup Finals. Like, I feel like the cap's going to only go up from here, and I truly feel like Montreal's position, specifically from a salary cap perspective, is just going to be like, I feel like they'll just be open to do almost whatever they want in a couple of years.
It's so true. It's really important. And it's so important to lock down these type of contracts while you can, because I really feel like Cole Caufield, if he did go with the bridge, we would be paying so much more down the road. And what's great about the Canadiens is even though we maybe don't have all the cap flexibility that we would like, that we're still in a much better position than many other teams. And for that, we're being able to take care of our young stars. Because when you're in a rebuild, what's more important than taking care of your young guns? You know, there's the example of the Edmonton Oilers. They were in a similar position where they had their young star defenseman in the making, you could say, Evan Bouchard, where they weren't able to do this with him. They weren't able to offer him an 8-year sort of deal like that. They had to offer him more of a short-term bridge just because of not having that same sort of cap flexibility. So this is probably going to really handcuff them down the road and end up having to pay even more on a cash-strapped team already. So I think I really like how we're just organizing everything and how this is all shaping up for the Habs.
Yeah, and actually another example of the Oilers of this kind of thing working well. Look at Leon Draisaitl when he signed that contract. People were kind of ridiculing, I think, Ken Holland at the time, saying that's a lot of money, but at the same time, when you sign these guys you truly think have superstar potential when they're young, again, while you still can get them at this price tag, it can pay incredible dividends. And you look at these good teams, a lot of the times the contending teams will have guys on those sort of rookie extensions who end up outperforming those numbers. So super exciting to hear this news. We'll give you guys way more info once this finally happens. Sure seems inevitable about at this point. But in the meantime, we're going to transition into another Habs signing, and it's Michael Pezzetta. A lot of people love Michael Pezzetta, right? He's just a grinder, fourth-line winger, plays with so much heart, and the Habs loved him enough to sign him to a 2-year extension. Michael Pezzetta, he had 15 points in 63 games in 2022-23. Signed him for 2 years with an AAV of about $812,500. So 2 years, just over $1.6 million. Jesse, to me, this deal is just, there's nothing wrong with it. Michael Pezzetta, in a lot of games this season, was really the heart and soul of the Montreal Canadiens. And I feel like every team can use a guy like this, especially for that price tag.
And it's for that reason that we offered him the contract. And I love seeing us reward players that are really making that effort, and I really feel like this is almost a floodgate into the subsequent RHB, Raphael Harvey-Pinard, another young player that plays with a lot of effort, maybe a little bit more of a scoring touch as we've seen, but at the same time, a heart and soul type of player. And these are the type of players for myself that have always made me love the Montreal Canadiens, whether it be Gallagher, now more with RHP, but
Yes, sir.
Pezzetta, he was that guy, that fire plug many times a night. He was changing the momentum on the ice. He was changing the energy, the complete dynamics of the game through his efforts. So these are just really one of those success stories that you really love to see. If somebody that really deserves it. Now, Michael Pezzetta's time fighting isn't done, but you got to feel like this is a really nice reward for him with this one-way contract.
Yeah, exactly. He won't be sent down, and if he does, he has to pass through waivers. At the very least, he's going to be that 13th forward who will slot in for a bunch of games because knowing the Habs' history, we haven't heard a whole lot about the medical staff yet this summer, but if they stick around, there will probably be plenty of injuries where Michael Pezzetta might have to fill in. So, but exactly, he's the kind of guy that you always want, right? Especially like this 2-year, fairly short-term extension. Have him around while this team is building up, right? He seems like a funny guy. Players love him. Coaches, I'm sure, love him for all his hustle. So super awesome to see. And I'm really excited to see what he can do on the ice these next 2 years. Jesse, we got one more topic for the video today. It has to do with some Habs prospects. And that's Owen Beck. And a little bit of Jared Davidson. We'll be talking about that in a second. But Owen Beck and the Peterborough Petes capped off a miraculous comeback in their tiebreaker game versus the Kamloops Blazers. It was 4-1 for the Blazers at one point. 4:23 of the second. It was 4-1 for the Kamloops Blazers. They said, when it went to 4-1, I said to them, if you don't allow another goal, you can win this, said Wilson, a player on Peterborough. Peterborough won the game. Jesse, we're going to play the goal. Set up by our boy Owen Beck, taking the 1-on-2, getting right to the net, dragging in both defenders, setting up for the game winner. Just heartbroken Kamloops fans, of course. That's who's hosting the tournament. And so Owen Beck and the Peterborough Petes punched their ticket to face Jared Davidson, another Habs prospect, and the Seattle Thunderbirds. Winner of that goes to face the Quebec Remparts in the Memorial Cup final. How pumped are you for this Hab versus Hab series, and what did you see in that amazing setup, that amazing play by Owen Beck in the most clutch of moments to set up his team's win?
Oh, I'm really excited to see the matchup, having some representation. Now we know for sure in the finals. But yeah, what I really liked about that goal, Josh, was just the awareness, just the cerebral type of play that was, right? He first is showing really good pace coming from the neutral zone, coming into the offensive zone on that left side. What I like here, though, is once he gains the zone, notice that little shimmy, right, to then kind of get on the inside. But what he's also doing is buying time for his fellow forward that's coming into the zone late, right? So basically he's putting it on a dish for J.R. Aben right in front of the net to rip home. He's doing all the work on this play, basically a 1 versus 2. You could call it 2 versus 2, but making the most out of almost nothing there, just with a good combination of skill, but also that intelligence that we've come to expect from Owen Beck, so that's great to see.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing, right? The mental game. We've talked about it so much. The mental game, the ability to stay calm under pressure and to know when to make the right play. That's stuff that a lot of the time you can't necessarily teach. You can get people to be maybe a bit faster, a bit more physical, but like you said, the cerebral play by Owen Beck is what's going to translate very well to the next level. So, he's played one NHL game already, but even though his point production is probably not what a lot of people might want, he's been under a point per game since he went to Peterborough and in the playoffs, but at the same time, you can tell that he fits because his two-way play is amazing. His ability to know when to make which play at the right moments and the wrong moments is really there. So, awesome to see that. Going to be super pumped for this next series. We'll give you guys all the updates on that and eventually the Memorial Cup final. But that'll do it for this news edition of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, a comment, subscribe to the channel. Help us reach 6,000 subs. We're really, really close. You guys have been subscribing like crazy. We really, really appreciate it. I'm your host, Josh Gosse, for my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.